You're listening once again to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Josh Tongue takes a fifer to help Nottinghamshire move to the top of the County Championship, Division 1. We'll discuss how big a role he has to play for England this summer, and we'll round up the rest of the week's Championship action. Former Zimbabwe bowler Ed Rainsford will join us to reflect on his country's historic Test win in Bangladesh and look ahead to next month's Test against England. We'll discuss the news that New Zealand Cricket has partnered with Major League Cricket and hear from their CEO, Scott Wienink. And we'll round up some of the week's other big stories as the IPL is set to get longer again. We'll talk to ESPN Cricinfo's Matt Roller about that, and we'll bring you the final word. So plenty to come over the next hour. This is Following On. Well, Harmy, just before we get on to the championship review, word that Nat Sciver-Brunt has been confirmed as England's new captain. No surprise there. She was the obvious candidate. I guess my only question is, I wonder whether she would have been quite so obvious and a candidate had Ben Stokes not captained as the leading all-rounder the England men's team so successfully.
Yeah, obviously it's obviously what happened in Australia. The 16-0. There was, the post-mortem was, Lewis going, Heather Knight going, and the obvious candidate. She's probably been England's best player for a number of years now, and I mean, I think it's a good fit. I think you could arguably say Nat Sciver-Brunt's probably England's best ever player of the women's game. And probably the person that you might throw a name at me, which would be Charlotte Edwards, is now the coach. So you'd think, England's best ever captain, arguably best ever former player, is now going to be in tune and in line with, for me, England's best ever player in Nat Sciver-Brunt. So I think it works perfectly well together. A new start, hopefully a new way of thinking, because I think over the course of the last 12 months, 18 months, and possibly a bit longer, has the complacency set in, has the professionalism of the game, which has gone from, the whole game's gone professional, have the standards slipped. I'm just looking from afar. It'll be interesting to see what Nat and Charlotte make of where England's, the next phase of English cricket in the women's game is. And I couldn't think of two better people to take it on. So, yes, we wish her well, and hopefully there will be a change of fortune against Australia, because at the end of the day, Nat and Ben Stokes, it's all about playing in the Ashes. It's all about playing against Australia, and that's what you'll be judged on. So fingers crossed, Nat and Charlotte get enough time to prepare for what is coming up, what will be a big series when they come up against Australia again.
Just confirmation that she will captain in all formats. She's currently on parental leave, but should be back for the series against the West Indies in May. All right, we're going to have to rattle through the championship roundup, but just you grab the stories and headlines that interest you, because obviously there'll be a full roundup of the latest championship action in Following On County Cricketer. Notts moved to the top of Division 1 with an emphatic 9-wicket win over Sussex at Trent Bridge. Fergus O'Neill bid the county farewell after talking to us last week with 21 championship wickets. But I couldn't help laughing. I didn't see it on the stream, but Ben Duckett making light of that fourth innings run chase with 59 not out off 31 balls. It makes you chuckle, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. You look at it and it was brilliant last week that Zach got runs. He got 50 off about 120 balls to save the game. But Zach Crawley has played most of the sort of all of the championship weeks. In some of the videos you see, you get him some sort of awful positions when it comes to his technical part of his batting. But Ben Duckett's had 4 weeks off, just walks out there, fourth innings, 148 to win, and rattles it off. Interesting that Ben Duckett batted 3. Interesting. I know Notts have probably got their usual openers, and they know that Ben's only going to play a couple of games. So interesting that he batted number 3, especially with the potentially of England's slots coming up. Problem position for England has been number 2 and number 3. So, look, I look at this last week. It was a shortened week because of teams. Only half the teams played. The standout was Josh Tongue. Really was. I really impressed by the way he bowled in that first innings. A volume in the second innings. I think he bowled 20 overs. Did he bowl 20 overs in the second innings? One for 70 odd. So not only is he getting his volume up and his numbers up from an overs point of view, some of the wickets he got were very, very impressive. So not stand at the top of the table. And like Fergus O'Neill said to us, manners, last week, he feels as though Notts have got a chance to take 20 wickets on any given surface. And if you can do that, you can challenge for the title. And no surprise at the top of the league.
And Surrey have moved up a gear, haven't they? Is Jordan Clark one of the most consistent and consistently underappreciated county players in the land?
Yeah, he seems to be. Yeah, we spoke to Lawrence last week about the Wisden, and I'm sure Jordan Clark was probably on the hit list as well for what he did, because obviously Wisden's 5 are what happens in English cricket summer. So the likes of Jordan Clark and John Simpson especially were 2 players who I think were unlucky to miss out of one of Wisden's 5 last year. So yes, Jordan Clark again, another seasoned campaigner who, just for the international game, unfortunately, and I say this with all due respect, probably not good enough at one discipline to get him in the team, to nail him down. He could probably bat number 8 comfortably, but could he hold down a spot as a frontline seamer? I think the whole package is very, very good. But in international terms, when you go up a level again, that's probably why the selectors think they're a little bit short. But for Surrey, he has been amazing. And he is probably their most influential player over the last 3 or 4 years, because you have your top batters, you have your top bowlers. You need somebody to hold it all together, and they've always had a wicketkeeper batter, and they've always had Clark who can balance both sides out. So yeah, very good.
Talking of international level, Tom Banton created lots of headlines, didn't he, on the first day, the first round with that innings of 371. Since then, he scored 40 runs at 8. As you know, and as we all know that follow this game for any length of time, it does have a habit of bringing you very quickly down to earth. So perhaps those who say, "Oh, hang on a minute, let's just see him score a few more hundreds and just play a bit more Championship cricket before we start talking about England."
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all knew that anyway. I think we come up against. I'm not saying this with saying how like Worcester being a poor side. He got 371 against Worcester, and then he came up against Sussex, Hampshire, and Surrey. 3 very, very good bowling attacks in different ways. Sussex with the sort of 2 spin options, and and Ollie Robinson overseas. Surrey had Dan Worrell back, looking as though he's at his best. I've seen a few clips, and he was swinging it nicely. Gus Atkinson got overs under his belt, but he did look a bit short of a gallop. The little bits I seen. Hampshire's a very good attack. So yes, Tom, he probably is searching now and thinking, have I used them all up in the first week? But I'm sure the tide will turn for him. And I think Somerset, if I'm right, Somerset get this week off or next week off, and that might do him the world of good, just to have his 4 games, have a week off, get back into the nets, get a bit of rest and recuperation, and then come back and hit the second part of this block of Championship cricket hard, hopefully, with the Test match selection up for grabs.
Okay, let's talk Durham now. Spicy wicket at New Road tends to happen when the ground spends 6 months underwater, I suppose. But it was a heck of a win. Durham have been playing some very good cricket, and what also struck me is that they have this amazing scouting team. I couldn't believe that. Cody Yusuf, 27-year-old South African seamer, not quick, and he's exactly the kind of guy that people who see him say, "Oh, put him on an English green top," and he's all yours. And didn't he just prove it?
He bowled nicely. I'd never really heard too much about him. I was when the Durham tweeted about it, and it was like, who's he? And I mean, I had to go and search him, and I looked at him and thought, you know what? Yeah, he might work, especially at Worcester. I mean, it's a different challenge on Friday when they get down to the Oval, because that'll be a good wicket. So again, Durham have been short of bowlers. A lot of bowlers have been injured, but I think from the USEF point of view, there was we freed up an overseas spot because David Bedingham, bit of a double whammy a couple of weeks ago when he got an in-swinging Yorker which hit him on the outside of the foot, and then he, coupled with the fact that his bat hit the inside of his foot, and he's in one of these medical boots for 4 weeks. So I don't think the World Test Championship's in jeopardy for him. But because of that, we've been able to get Durham. We've been able to get a second another overseas in, and he bowled brilliantly last week along with Jake Ball. I thought Jake bowled fantastically well in that first innings, and Ball and Rain on a little green top at Worcester. I mean, it must have been a nightmare to feel at slip, because I watched some of that stream. I mean, slip looked as though he was closer to a spinner than he was to a seamer. It looked so slow, but Durham seemed to have the bowlers to suit the occasion, and it was a good win for Durham, especially when 42 was the highest score of the match by Henry Nicholls. When you look at that, Durham was a much needed win, and I've said for the last couple of weeks, as well as on the sort of County Cricketer show, the way Durham see the game and the outlook that Ryan Campbell and Alex Lees have got, they'll win more games than they'll lose playing this way, and they got their just rewards this week.
And just confirmation that Notts on top with 70 points from 4 games, followed by Surrey with their first win on 60. Sussex still in third place with 52, and Essex have only played 3 games, are in 4th. Right, you're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll build up to the start of the Test summer and discuss how Zimbabwe are preparing following their first win in over 4 years last week against Bangladesh. You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And a reminder that you can now watch us on the YouTube channel. Just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Now then, we're joined live, as promised at the top of the show, by former Zimbabwean fast bowler Ed Rainsford. The fastest bowler, actually, that Zimbabwe has ever produced, in my experience. And I've watched a lot of Zimbabwean cricket. Played 39 ODIs and 220 internationals for Zimbabwe, but took 242 wickets at 20 in 72 first-class games. And I just go through that, Ed, because everyone knows you as a commentator now. I do like to remind people that you could play a bit when you were fit. Ed, let's talk about the Test team rather than you. What a win. What a win that was. Brilliant stuff.
Firstly, hi, Manners. How are you? Hi, Stephen. How are you? What an introduction.
How are you, Ed?
All I can say is that it really went fast and then it went really slow at the end of my career. So thank you for those kind words, Manners.
Well, talk about the current Test team then, and blessing Muzarabani.
Yeah, the Zim side has gone through a great deal of transition, and it's actually taken a while to get this group of players together. But if you want to focus on Blessing Muzarabani for now, I think he is world class. I think he walked away from Zim cricket for a brief period to go and play a little bit of county cricket, which I think did him a world of good. I think there was some hardening there. I think there was an opportunity for him to also bring about a different element to his skill in terms of his body and how he manages it. And then when he came back into the national side, it's just, he hasn't looked back. I mean, he's gone from PSL contracts, he's gone to the CPL, he's got IPL gigs. From what I understand, I think a little bird may have told me that he could have gone to the IPL, but decided to go to Bangladesh first and play in this Test series. And he's just got to 50 Test wickets in just 11 games. I think he equals Heath's streak, and I think he's a world-class bowler.
And how's the preparation going? It's a great victory, but preparation going for England, different type of test, probably a different types of squads as well when it comes to the makeup of bowling attacks and things like that. So, whereas Zimbabwe, when it comes to heading over to the UK,
I think playing Test cricket for them, essentially the first part is the preparation that they need, especially going to Bangladesh. Sylhet is a different sort of venue where the ball was seaming around and bouncing a lot from what I watched. But coming to England, like you say, it's a totally different kettle of fish in terms of they've never actually played. A lot of them haven't actually played at any of the test venues. They haven't played against an England side in a test venue. So the pressure is going to be extremely, extremely high. I think the preparation when they come home is a very quick turnaround. I think they're at home for probably 5 or 6 nights, and then they're into the UK, and then they've got a practice game, I think, at Leicester. So that is where they'll probably sort of get their feet under the desk in terms of playing in England. So it's going to be a quick turnaround from going to the subcontinent to coming home to then going to England. So preparation is going to be a slightly shaky, but the fact that they're playing test cricket and it's a quick turnaround and having a practice game, I think will help them a great degree.
2 questions here, 2 topics, Ed. You can take your pick or you can answer both. Tell us a bit more about Ben Curran. A lot of England followers will know the name, but you know, he suffered a bit from middle child syndrome, didn't he, between Tom and Sam? But he's found his feet now. He's opening the top of the order. Tell us a bit more about Ben, and then I'm going to ask you about Brendan Taylor's possible comeback.
All right, then, Manus. I'll go with the first question first. Ben Curran, yes, middle child to Kevin Curran, obviously Tom, and then Sam. He struggled a little bit. He had a slight condition where he couldn't actually walk properly. He was mainly used to walk on the toes of his feet, and sort of didn't make a lot of teams. And I think he had a surgery to correct that, and then went to St. George's College, and then came across to England when the late Kevin Curran passed on. So he's had to do it the hard way, and played a bit of county cricket, and from what I understand, didn't quite crack it there as much as he would have wanted to, as his brothers did, and then came back to Zimbabwe and sort of put his hand up and said, you know what, I'm going to come home and I'm going to play first-class cricket, and I'm going to try and rack up the numbers, which he did, and then finally got his opportunity to make his test debut. I think it was against Afghanistan at the beginning of the year, and he looks like an opener that Zimbabwe have been looking for a very long time. The biggest part for me about Ben Curran is that he's got a big heart. I think he really wants to succeed. He really wants to also be one of the Currans, if I could say that. I think he wants to get to a test 100. I think he wants to really do well, and he wants to do it his way, I think, and that's how he's done it. I think I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago where he actually started sending his brothers a bit of banter to say he was the first Curran to get 100 in international cricket. So that in itself tells you that he's already sort of throwing the jabs out at his brothers. And I think his late father will be very proud.
Okay, Ed, you got to answer the question about Brendan Taylor. Now, he was, he was banned from the game for a number of ICC anti-corruption infringements, colluded with bookmakers. He had a drugs problem, all of which he has been completely open about. And now, at the age of 39, pushing 40, there's talk about him making a comeback to the Zimbabwean team. Not of his volition, it was actually a suggestion from the Zimbabwe cricket chief executive, wasn't it?
I thought Homie was going to come there and just give me a bit of a breather before we dived into this one. But yeah, all you've said is 100% correct. He's gone through a number of challenges. Obviously, the anti-corruption issues and obviously the drug issues. From the time that I've Brendan Taylor here in Zimbabwe, bumping into him, he's lost a great deal of weight. He's turned his lifestyle around dramatically. I have heard those murmurs about him wanting to make a comeback once his ban is done in July, I think it is. I'll be 100% honest with you, Manners. I don't actually know categorically where the Zimbabwe cricket have put out a statement to say that they're opening the door for him to come back, or they're closing the door for him to come back. I think they're perhaps waiting for the ban to come to an end. But from what I'm seeing, because my son has cricket lessons at one of the cricket places here in Harare, he's there every day. He's training hard. He's lost. If you see him, Manners, I mean, you've seen BT, you've seen Brendan Taylor over the years. He's lost a great deal of weight. and he's hitting a lot of balls, and he's trying to stay as fit as possible. And I think, speaking to him, I think he also just wants to maybe right a few wrongs. You're right, he's 39. Where would he play? Would he play more T20 cricket? Is it helping the youngsters from a transitional perspective? He's also looking at the likes of Craig Ervin, Sean Williams, who are also approaching 40. Raza's approaching 40, and he's saying to himself, well, if they can do it, surely if the door is open, then I'll come back and I'll also do it, and sort of end my career on slightly on a high than rather ending it on what has been quite a little bit of a dark sort of passage of his career and his lifestyle.
Ed, the bowling attack is excellent for Zimbabwe. Is the question whether they can score enough runs? I mean, they've got a very good spinner in Wellington Masakadza. You've spoken about Blessing, Richard Ngarava, Victor Nyachi. I mean, it's a good bowling attack. I reckon they're good for 20 wickets. But did they over reliant on Sean Williams and Craig Ervin?
Yeah, I was just looking for a stat I saw the other day. I think Sean Williams now is the longest serving cricket career in cricket history.
And the longest international career of any current player. Yeah.
All right, there we go. 20 years plus, and he keeps doing it. So I think he holds the key to, and along with Craig Ervin through that middle order, because if you look at Sean Williams' record in itself, it's a very good one. And I think Sean Williams, once he's done, he'll actually look back at that and think he could have done a lot better, because he has a very good international record. So he'll hold the key here in England. I think a good opening stand, but the England bowlers are really going to test them out. You are so right, Manners, in that their bowling attack is very good. I mean, you look at Masakesa, the leg spinner that's come in this test match in Chattogram. He's turning it square. Yes, the wicket's assisting him, but he sort of has just slotted in there. And he's just looked like he's been playing test cricket for a long time. Yes, granted, the wicket is assisting him, but what you see from the optics looks like someone who's hungry and ready to perform. So yes, the bowling, looks stronger more than on the batting side of things. But I think if that top six can come together nicely, I think Wesley Madera is also coming through in terms of getting to that maturity in terms of where he is as a batter. If they can sort of click, I think they can sort of resist that bowling attack. But my goodness, Gus Atkinson, you look at if Tongue plays, and man, as I scratch my head and I think to myself, what sort of side is England going to put out? Are they going to be managing their summer because they've got a real tough test series against India? What sort of bowling and 11 are they going to put out? Are they going to come out of the blocks early and put out their best test 11? That's also something that's going to be interesting to see. It's a 4-day test as well. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamics of both teams in terms of how they stack up.
And finally, Ed, didn't you play against Steve Harmison in the 2004 Champions Trophy? I'm going to ask Harmy to for his memories of a 19-year-old Ed Rainsford. But what did a 19-year-old Ed Rainsford, and you had quite a lot to say for yourself as a 19-year-old fast bowler. What are your memories of playing against Steve Harmison in England in that tournament?
It was a funny one because it was the Champions Trophy, and you had a reserve day the next day. So halfway through the ODI, it rained while England were batting, and we batted the next day. Remember, we lost early wickets, and Elton Chigumbura was out there batting, and he seemed to be having the time of his life. And I walked out there, and he just says to me, "Well, it's fast. Just watch the ball." So I said, "Well, it was the old Edgbaston Stadium, so it's a side screen at the back." And I said, "You want me to watch the ball, and you've just told me he's fast." And so it hit me. It actually hit me. And I just ran. I just took a leg by, and I remember getting to the other end, and you sort of hear the ball hit the ground, but you don't see the ball until it hit me, and then I took a single. So he had some gas.
Do you remember hitting 19-year-old Ed Rainsford, Harmy?
I do remember it. Unfortunately, I do apologise for that now. I do remember that. It was a long time ago. It was, if I remember as well, the temperature wasn't that high either, was it? It was a bit cold.
No.
I mean, they sent you to Durham, which wasn't the best place in the world to send you. I think I was devastated because Streaky bowled the first ball ever at Chester Street. I was desperate to be the first person to do that. But I tell you what, the weather at Chester Street was cold that weekend as well. It was freezing.
Yeah. It wasn't a pleasant experience facing England those days. And then Freddie, the other thing about that ODI at Edgbaston was that I was at fine leg, and the crowd was shouting, "Don't worry about the rest. Get everybody else. We've only come to see Freddie."
Yeah, well, we'll think about the test match at Trent Bridge. It's going to be a massive occasion for Zimbabwe. I think they've worked extremely hard. They've gradually been improving over recent years, and that test win, I mean, they're under a bit of pressure as we speak now in the second test, but that was a famous victory, first in 4 years.
I will say this, man, this test match is massive for Zimbabwe. It's massive, not just from a cricketing perspective. I've been speaking to so many people that are getting Airbnbs. People are trucking in to try to get into Trent Bridge. I mean, England and Zimbabwe ODIs or test matches were always a festive affair. So, you know, it's a privilege for all of these players to come back to England and play a test match against this England side in England. So the administrators and everybody that's made it possible, I mean, I take my hats off to them, and I'm absolutely excited.
Ed Rainsford, real pleasure. Sorry it's taken so long to get you on the show, but it won't be your last appearance. Thank you. You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And if you've missed any of the show or you wish to catch up, you can download the podcast from the Following On feed, now available via the free talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcasts. Fascinating story this, New Zealand cricket partnering with Major League Cricket in America. NZC has agreed terms with the US-based company True North Sports Ventures to launch a new MLC franchise in the 2020 season. Before I get your thoughts on that, Harmy, let's just hear, first of all, from New Zealand Cricket Chief Executive Scott Wienink, who explained what their partnership with the MLC entails.
It's in our off-season, so it creates a perfect opportunity for players and our coaches to be playing in Major League Cricket. So there's some perfect synergies in there as it is in our off-season. So the North American market is the most lucrative sports market in the world, and obviously India is a close second. So we see it as an opportunity to, you know, we're trying to grow our brand and trademarks for both our players and New Zealand cricket in India. We see this as an opportunity to also do it in North America, where it is such an incredibly lucrative sports market. Yeah, this is going to create huge opportunities for our players to, again, you know, play in a domestic franchise league overseas, thereby topping up their earnings that they receive from New Zealand cricket. This creates a huge opportunity for New Zealand cricket as a whole, right from our community game, right through our pathways and high performance, because all of the people involved in those parts of our game are going to have opportunities that come out of this, but also for our players. You know, we expect for it to create far more playing opportunities for our players in this domestic franchise league in America, which is only going to grow.
That's Scott Wienink, a New Zealand Cricket Chief Executive, and we'll hear a bit more from him in a moment. It is fascinating, Harmy. I mean, you can look at it in so many different ways. I mean, it's in the New Zealand off season, but it does have a sense of not capitulation. That's wrong, but there is certainly a sense of if you can't beat them, join them. You know, if you can't take on franchise cricket, then become part of it.
Yeah, if you can't beat franchise cricket, then you join it. New Zealand cricket have always been quite good at looking after their players' interests when it comes to playing around the world. So, you know, from that point of view, are they the ones that are going to be the first ones where other countries, other nations look to that, especially outside the big three? I don't know, man. As you cover obviously cricket for a long period of time, and you understand the game's workings from all boards' point of view, can you see this happening to a South African board where you're close to? Can you see the West Indies getting involved with this because they lose a lot of their players to franchise cricket? Is it something that you can see other nations jumping on the board on the back of?
I can. It's a financial thing, Harmy. Honestly, I mean, if any franchise league came along to Cricket South Africa or the West Indies Cricket Board and said, here's an opportunity to diversify your income. Um, you supply us physiotherapists and trainers and other forms of expertise, and we'll pay you for them. Then I think they wouldn't hesitate. I think absolutely, no question, and it also provides an opportunity for the country's up and coming cricketers to go and gain experience. So not for the first time, New Zealand cricket at the forefront of innovation and creative thinking. It is, Harmy, an acceptance of reality, isn't it? I mean, New Zealand cricket are going, we're too small, we can't fight, we can't push the waves back. This is the way it is. They said that years and years and years ago, before any other of the boards about the IPL. They said, we're just not going to put any pressure on our players. We can't pay them what they earn in the IPL. And they've again been at the forefront of giving players the freedom that they desire and that they want. And more and more players from New Zealand are not signing central contracts. And New Zealand cricket say, well, that's just the way it is. Well, let's accept it. Let's embrace the reality of the now.
Yeah, and some might look at this and think, well, yeah, they're capitulating into the sort of the franchise world. But I agree with you, and I think because they're looking after their players will look after them, like Sir Kane Williamson's done for many years. So, look, I'm interested to see this MLC. I think this is the baby to be in. The Americans don't do anything by half. So when they expand, they'll expand again. And it wouldn't surprise me if a lot more, and this is why I was always worried. I said this last year when the MLC came about, when Liam Plunkett came on. I'm worried about English cricket fitting at the same time as the MLC because these guys have got money. And now they've got interest from the ICC nation as well. I think this league is going to go from strength to strength, and where it can be by the time the next franchise deal is done, which I think is in 2027, go to 8 teams. I think the Americans potentially are the ones that, along with the SA20, are the ones that are pushing the boundaries on any other franchise league other than the IPL.
So the MLC set to expand to 8 teams in 2027 and then possibly 10 in 2031. That's all from this section, Harmy. But before I let you go, our viewers on YouTube deserve to know why you joined our Cricketers in Their Cars club for this edition, and where are you, and why have we lost your picture?
Yeah, I've just lost the picture slightly. I work to get it back. I'm at West Houghton Cricket Club watching Durham against Lancashire under-18s. And unfortunately, I can't get into the clubhouse, so I've had to do it in the car off my phone. It's not the greatest signal, so I do apologise for that. But we always make sure that we try and get a show out every single week. And unfortunately, my signal is not the greatest, so I do apologise to all viewers on YouTube. But hopefully, you can hear my dulcet tones through the speakers.
Yes, we can, Harmy. And a final word. Charlie Harmison is captaining. Now, captaincy came to you very, very late in your career. At the end of it, in fact, not at the beginning. So no. Charlie's not quite the same chip off the old block.
No, he's definitely not the same chip off the old block. He's a fast bowler, yes, but that's about it. I mean, he hasn't had a drop of alcohol. He's 17 years old. I think I was borderline alcoholic when I was that age. So, and captaincy didn't really come natural to me. I once did a game where there was 2 overs left, and I think no, it was 3 overs left, and I bowled Neil Killeen, and then realised that he had 2 overs left. Couldn't bowl from both ends. So I think that cost us 15 runs in the last over when we got beat by 10. So captaincy wasn't natural to me. But no, I did have a text message off Will McPherson just before we started that a Harmison captain and mustard. So young Rory's opening the bat, and he's literally just got out as young Rory Mustard, Philip's son, and obviously my son's captain. So it's not something that comes natural to him. He did it last week, and I thought his head was going to spin off because Yorkshire got 406, I think it was, in 50 overs. So no, not a natural thing for a Harmison to be captain, but he's given it a good go.
And good on him, and good on you for being there. You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Durham Hall of Famer Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll round up the week's other big stories in part 4 as the IPL could be extended yet again, and we'll bring you the final word. You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former #1 bowler in the world, Steve Harmison. And you can now watch us on YouTube. Just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Okay, the subject, as I promised in the introduction, about the IPL's expansion. IPL chairman Aaron Dumal says that the BCCI will seriously consider a full home and away format from the next media rights cycle in 2028. It means that the IPL will expand, if it does, to 94 matches. No new teams added, still the 10 franchises. Currently, the league comprises 74 matches, so there'd be another 20. I thought, Matt, you wrote a brilliant piece. You always write brilliant pieces about the expansion on Cricinfo. And because it was suggested that it would happen a couple of years ago. And just recap that, seeing as you've done the work, recap the reasons why it didn't expand and what the ramifications might be for expansion, and is it inevitable?
Well, thanks very much for that, first of all, Manners. Yeah, I think it's an interesting scenario at the moment in the IPL where you have a situation where not every team plays everyone else home and away. So the intention ever since they introduced 2 new teams, which are Gujarat and Lucknow, we're in the 4th season of them existing at the moment. The intention, I think, has always been to grow to 94 games, which allows a full home and away season. I think the reason it's not happened so far is just it is hard to find that full window in the international calendar, in the Future Tours program. If you think this year, the Champions Trophy ended, the second week of March, I think. And the IPL started about 10 days later. So if they brought it further any forward, then it would have been super, super tight with the Champions Trophy final. And if you push the end dates back any later, you're hitting monsoon season in India. The possible remedy to that, to get more games in, would be to play more double headers. But the broadcast like double headers because the afternoon games always rate much lower. And also, yeah, I think from a competitive point of view, I think the teams are sort of gradually thinking maybe we do need to go to 94. So clearly it is something they're actively considering. And I think with the Future Tours program for 2027 onwards really being thrashed out over the next probably 12 months or so, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a slightly longer window carved out for IPL so they can put an extra 2 weeks in.
But Matt, what does that do for the global game? Or is nobody really in India that bothered about the global game? Is it all about just making sure that this IPL is making as much money as it possibly can? Because you've already said there, they're not interested in double headers because it don't make much money.
Yeah, it's a good question, Army. I think it's one that will be discussed at times, but I think first and foremost from the BCCI's point of view, I think they from a financial perspective, I think it makes so much more sense for them to expand the IPL. If you think about if they were to play an extra, say, 5-match T20 series with a rest day between each game minimum, that's going to take them 9 days, and they're going to get 5 nights of T20 cricket. If they chuck in an extra 20 games of IPL, they can get that done in maybe 15 days, and you've got T20 on every night. So from a financial perspective, I think they see it as a no-brainer. The issue obviously is then what it does to the rest of the international calendar. And from the English perspective, from the South African perspective, from the West Indian perspective, you'd probably look at that and think this is going to squeeze Test cricket even harder. This is going to squeeze bilateral cricket even harder. But I think what we're seeing generally, and I think what we'll see in that next Future Tours program, is a bit of a reckoning for bilateral cricket between international teams, and I particularly mean their ODI cricket and T20 cricket. I think I think with the way that the World Test Championship has been a success, and with the crowds that we saw in Australia's series against India quite recently, I think those big Test series will still happen. But I think there is going to be that big crunch on bilateral limited overs cricket.
Matt, I know we wanted to talk to you about expansion, but can I just divert the conversation towards overseas players? There was a time 6 or 7 years ago, or for the first dozen years of the IPL, it was absolutely inconceivable that a franchise wouldn't use their full quota of 4 overseas players. A couple of weeks ago, in a game between Gujarat and Delhi, they only started with 2 each. So is it that India are producing so many more of their own players who are better? I mean, is India just pulling clear of the rest of the world when it comes to T20 cricket? I mean, are the rest of the world stars not good enough anymore, or are they becoming? I don't know. I'm fascinated by the lack of international players.
I think there's certainly an element of the fact that Indian cricket has just got unbelievable depth. I mean, I'm speaking to you the morning after we've seen a 14-year-old hit a 35 ball 100 for Rajasthan Royals. So that proves that there's no shortage of talent in Indian T20 cricket at the moment. I do actually think one other thing that has happened in the last few years is that while the commercial success of the IPL, I think, is unquestionable if you look at the values of the franchises, I don't think player salaries, and I know there's some huge numbers at the top end, but I think overall the salary cap hasn't grown maybe quite as much as it might have in relation to the commercial success of the league. So I do think you're seeing a situation in some cases where some sort of fringe international players may be thinking, actually, for 9 weeks in India, I might be earning this much, and I could actually get that from playing 4 weeks in the ILT20 in Dubai or 4 weeks in the SA20 in South Africa. Maybe I'll go with one of those instead and then not bother with the IPL. So we've seen that with a few English players this year, didn't bother entering, particularly because they've got a big year of international cricket ahead. But some guys have opted to go to the Pakistan Super League instead, where they might be earning similar amount, but for 6 weeks work instead of 9. Slightly less time away from home. So I think in terms of that depth maybe of international cricketers, I think or overseas players, I should say, I think maybe the 60th best international player is now choosing to go to a different league and rather than going for sort of base price in the IPL. So I think there's an element of both things you mentioned there.
Matt, what do you make of Lancashire Chief Executive Daniel Gidney suggesting that the ECB should sell a stake in the 100 to the I'm trying to keep a straight face. I mean, I can't. Yeah. He said that the ECB should sell a stake in the 100 to the BCCI to release some Indian players. That's not going to happen, is it?
Yeah. To play devil's advocate a bit, I was speaking to Daniel Gidney when he gave that answer, and I was very much pitching it as if you were to try and get Indian players into the 100, what would the solution be, or how would we achieve that? I can't see the BCCI changing their stance anytime soon on Indian internationals, or active Indian men's internationals, I should say, playing in overseas leagues. I think that's such a big thing for the IPL, as it has that exclusivity around the Indian superstars that make the league what it is. So I can't see that changing anytime soon. I did note last week, actually, that New Zealand Cricket have just bought a stake in one of the new teams in Major League Cricket for 2026 onwards, I think. So maybe it's not as outlandish as it first seemed. Maybe this is something. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, the idea that a national board would own a stake in an overseas franchise team all in now in the T20 era.
Matt Roller, ESPN Cricket Info's assistant editor. We're having a few problems with the connection, so and I know that you've got a big afternoon coming up, but loving your work, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much for your time, mate. Excellent. ESPN Cricket Info assistant editor Matt Roller. Just a final word on that subject. ECB Chief Executive Richard Gould said that attracting Indian men's players was not priced into our plans. And the BCCI's stance, he said, is very clear about their players participating. Right, Harmy, let's finish on the final word. And we've got two really good ones this week. The first is completely obvious. Vaibhav Suryavanshi. You know what I've loved most is watching our friends and colleagues in the cricket media around the world attempting to put their feelings into words.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't. I've given
yeah.
up. I have no words. It's just beyond belief.
I'm with you, Manners. I'm a man of a lot of words that don't make sense a lot of times. But I tell you what, I would have no idea what to say. And I mean, the great commentator like Danny Morrison, who was commentating on it. I mean, Danny was struggling, and if Danny Morrison's struggling, then we're all struggling. I was watching that, and I've obviously I've seen the highlights of it. I didn't watch it live. I've not watched a great deal of the IPL, but I'm watching it, and I'm seeing him hit sixes and fours. And the funny thing about it is, you watch him hit when he was hitting boundaries, and you just see he score, and he scores just dwarfing Yashasvi Jaiswal. Yashasvi Jaiswal is probably the most, I reckon, impacted young player in world cricket in the last 18 months. And this 14-year-old has just made him look like he's an old man. You know, he's standing at the other end. He's a nobody. And I was like, it was unbelievable. I mean, some of the shots he was hitting was fantastic. It was a Rishabh Pant like the way his bat speed was. It's stupid to say that he's got a great future in the game. He's 14-year-old with 35 ball 100 in the IPL. But the thing that struck me was not just this was the shots and everything that he's going to get loaded for, and rightly so. But I was looking at the ticket tape and going, that's Jaiswal at the other end, who is going at a strike rate of about 120, but he looks as though he's playing like 40 years ago compared to what this young man's doing. So fair play to them. You looked at it, and looking at the highlights and watching them, with him and Jaiswal at the same team, him and Jaiswal at the pitch at the same time, and you're looking at Indian cricket, like Matt Roller's just said there, the depth in that country is huge. And he's 14. When is he going to play? People will be saying, when is he going to play his international debut? But with the strength that India have got, I mean, they've got an embarrassment of riches. But what a story! What a young talent, and hopefully he gets nurtured very, very well, because where his game could go could be. I mean, it's limitless. And you look at what Sachin did at 16. This kid's doing it at 14. It's mind-boggling, Manners.
It is completely mind-boggling. And finally, on a lighter note, although Iftikhar Ahmed, the Pakistan spinner, didn't find it particularly humorous at the time, but Colin Munro, the Islamabad United opener, was fined 30% of his match fee after implying that Iftikhar Ahmed, well, he came round the wicket and he bowled, let's call it a quicker ball. It was quite a lot quicker. And Monroe thought that it was, a chuck. And he's just made this chucking motion. And Iftikhar Ahmed took an exception to it. The umpires got involved. The play was suspended. I looked at the replay a couple of times, and look, it was a lot quicker. But I don't know. I mean, anyway, the point is, whether it was a chuck or not, was Colin Munro out of order?
Yeah, I think it is a bit out of order, implying the way he did. But in the heat of the battle, emotions get away from you. He could have just tottled off to the umpire and said, I think there was something a bit different to that one from around the wicket, politely. I thought he might have been singing on the old dog stick at the coaches wanting some throwdowns. But hey, it is what it is. I think Iftikhar Ahmed from around the wicket used his full 15-degree usage that the ICC allow you to. And Colin Munro is getting up 30% like they're in pocket. So nobody's won.
No, it brought a smile to the majority of people who saw it, I think. Anyway, you've been listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. We'll be back at the same time next week to look back at another round of county championship action and the rest of the week's news. But for now, this has been another edition of Following On.